Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Can you hear me? Hello. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Good evening to you, Doctor. Yes.
Excellent. Great. I just want to make sure that you can hear me. First of all, thank you very much for joining our session today. My name is Dr. Tamer Matwalli. Just give you a bit of a background about myself. I've been actually a lecturer and trainer for the past 10 years. I come from a wealth of background when it comes to HR and strategic management. So I'll be sharing my experience from Australia and also from Dubai as well. I was born and raised in Melbourne, Australia, and I've been in Dubai for the past 5 years, and I've done a number of different training and lecturing in here basically in Dubai, KSA, and Bahrain. So I'll be sharing my experience in that perspective, especially when it comes to HR, because the culture and the GCC is a little bit different than actually the West, and there'll be a few things I would like to outline in relation to the subject. So before we actually commence, I would like to please share a couple of things with you. There's been some documentations been shared by the Institute itself. So I would like to go over that because they are very crucial documentation. So let me just share that with you now. So the first documentation that I would like to go through with you, it's called a study guideline. And this is a very important document because it gives you, and let me share the file with you. If we can go through here, bear with me for a second, just making sure that I have the file opened. Yes, it's here. So I will share with you. You should actually have received it, but I will go over it with you. Can you see this document? I've just shared the file. So this is the study guide itself. You can see my screen, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
Yes, Doctor.
So this is a really good documentation. I would highly recommend you to go over this documentation at your own pleasure and your own time, because it gives you obviously what is this course about, the credit value of this course, etc. So it's really important, the aim of the course itself. And then this here is crucial because it talks about the learning outcomes, the assessment criteria, and so on. So these are the things that we're going to be addressing and going through part of the course itself. And if you really need to quickly understand the topics or the contents that we will go through in these 4 sessions, this here is a full summary for you. So the Institute has given this in a very easy and simple way to understand. Okay, so I would highly recommend you to go over that in relation to your assessment, how it's covered. You can see here the final assessment is 70%, your student workbook is 30%. Okay, and then how the grades actually been assessed. So please, at your pleasure, I would highly recommend you to go over this and to understand the process. And some resources that we actually recommend you if you need to additionally go over certain resources. There's actually, the Institute itself has given you certain resources. I can hear someone is unmuted, and I can see a little cat. I can hear, not see, I can hear a cat. So please, if you can mute yourself, will be great. So these resources, and you can see it's actually highlighted in blue. So by me just clicking on that, it takes me straight to the resource. I highly recommend you for you to visit these resources. And whenever we're doing assessment, the more resources that you go through, that shows that you've done extensive research. It shows that you are proactive, which is a very important word, and that's very important for the Institute itself. Okay, so when you do your assessment, the more resources that you have, the better it is. Okay, it shows that you have looked at different materials from books, research materials, articles, etc. But these are some for you that I would highly recommend you for you to have a look at as well. Okay. Now the Institute itself takes plagiarism very seriously. So you cannot copy someone's work without actually referencing it. So whenever you're taking something, an idea or a quote from a book or an article or a magazine in that matter, you do require to reference it. And that's called referencing. And the Institute has made it very clear that we're going to be using the Harvard style for referencing, which I'm going to go through after this document. So if you're not familiar with the Harvard referencing and this is your first subject, that's okay. Don't worry, don't stress. I'm going to go through the Harvard referencing and how to utilize that and implement it for your assessment. Okay, but keeping in mind, whatever idea that you have, you must reference it. If you don't reference that, it means that you came up with that idea, which if that's not the case, that's called plagiarism, which is taken very seriously under the academic laws. So keep that in mind. I will go through the Harvard referencing as well. So let me just go through that. Okay. Now you should have received the PDF, and I'm going to share the file with you. If you have not received any of these files that I'm actually sharing with you, please contact the Institute itself, and they'll be more than happy to share that with you. So there's no concerns at all. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So please let me know once you can see the screen. Can you see the screen? You should.
Doctor, excuse me.
Yes, yes, please.
I can see the screen, but it's empty. There is nothing inside. It's blank.
Okay, it's strange. What about the previous screens? Were you able to see my
Yeah,
previous
the
screen?
same. Yeah, the same.
I can see
Strange.
the screen clearly with no problem at all.
That's very strange because it's I just had a Zoom before.
I think the problem is at Ayat's side, not your side.
Okay, can you?
Okay,
Can you
I will see what I can do. Thank you.
Sure. Can everybody else see my screen? I'm just shared my screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we are able to see it.
Okay, okay. So if you are using a phone, if you are using a pad or iPad, you may have some difficulties. This is talking from experience with other participants, but I would highly recommend you using a laptop for these lectures, please. So this is obviously the referencing itself. You should have these files. If you don't, as I said to you, please contact the Institute. Couple of things that you need to be aware of. Part of plagiarism is that you need to be honest. Okay, if a certain idea came from a certain resource, either being a textbook, magazine, an article, a YouTube, whatever may be, whatever the resource may be, you need to document that. Okay, now if an idea that is not from any resource and this is your idea, then do not reference that. That is your credit. Okay, as long as there's nothing I can prove or the Institute can prove that, hold on, this idea has been presented by this individual or this group. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, very importantly, when you're writing the reference itself, there's a certain style that you need to have. There's couple of things that you need to be aware of. Whenever you're writing an assessment, we call this the body of the assessment. So we call that in-text referencing. When you're writing something, there's an in-text, and then at the end of the assessment, there's a separate page. Okay, it's called a referencing, where you need to state the full reference in full in alphabetical order. Okay, so let me show you an example of that. This is just Now, a couple of things that I would like to outline. When you're taking something from a textbook, when you're taking something from an article, a research article, or whatever the resource may be, you can take it word by word as a quote. That example, Mr. Smith, open quote, said ABC, close quotes, and then you put your in-text reference. Now, the other way that you can actually do it is you read a certain idea and then you paraphrase. So Mr. Smith has said that the HR department can increase its performances by implementing ABC. Now, I'm going to paraphrase that in my own words, okay, and put it in there, okay, without any quotes. I'm going to paraphrase and then put it still in text, which is a reference that this idea, what I've said, came from that, but it's paraphrasing. So what we're actually recommending, you cannot copy quotes, for every single thing. There's certain things, the majority of the things should be paraphrased by yourself, okay? So there's a lot of paraphrasing, which means you're reading the information, you use your own words, you change, the structure in your own words, and then you write it down, or you type it into part of your essay itself. So as I've mentioned, there's two things. There's the in-text citation, which goes inside the body, and there's obviously the biography, which goes right to the end, which is done as an alphabetical order. So you start with A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. Okay. Now there's a structure. There's a certain things that you need to. There's a certain style that you need to use, and if you don't use that style, there could be points obviously be lost. So be careful with that. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to put the author or authors, because certain textbooks is written by 2 or 3 or more authors. And then you basically have the surname or family name, and then the year of actually the where it was actually published, and the page numbers itself. Okay. So this is a citation. So I've given you an example here. This is the way it's actually been written is very, very simple, and it gives you a really good examples in this documentation. So whenever you have more than one author, it's written as et.al, which means you don't have to write every single author's surname. Okay, so you write the first and second, and then basically et.al, and making sure there is always a full stop after the L. Okay, so these full stops, commas, these are very important part of the referencing. This is the style, and you need to be very cautious. You need to double check or triple check before you submit your assessment, and making sure have I got a full stop there, I've got a comma there, etc., and go back over these documentation and ensure that it's correct. So this is an example of in-text citation. So you can see here that you got the surname and obviously the year itself. That's called citation. And you can see this is not a direct quote. This was paraphrased by this particular student, and they put a citation itself. Okay. Now, if there's more than 2 authors, so you put the first author's surname and second surname of the author, and then comma, and then the year where obviously that book or that article or that resource was actually done. Okay, so you can see there's a comma. You got to be very careful that you need to be aware of there here. Okay, and as I said, if it's more than 3 authors, then as you can see as a third example, you put the first surname, you got et.al.2006, which means there's more than 2 authors. So there could be 3, 4, 5, 6 million. There's no issue there at all. Okay, so this is a typical example again from assessments. It's called in-text here. So they've given you examples for you. So the way it's been structured and it's been written, it's really, really good. And as I said, there's nothing better than actually having an example. Okay. So again, if there is, this is another good example here for you, ladies and gentlemen, when you specifically want to mention a page. So you got a certain resource and a specific page that you got that information from. So what you need to do is you need to put the author, comma, the year, comma, and then P, which stands for page, and then full stop, and then 6. So hypothetically, when you're doing an insertion and you forget a comma or you forget the full stop, unfortunately, these are easy marks that you're going to be losing out. So please, making sure that you double and triple check these things before you actually submit. Any questions on this? Any questions? Has everybody got these documentations?
No, it's so clear.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in relation to tables, in relation to graphs, you'll say, well, hold on, that graph, I made that graph. I made it. I designed the graph. I didn't copy the graph. Yes, but where did you get those statistics from? Where did you get these numbers from? Again, these are not your numbers. Unless you've done the research yourself, that's a different story. Then you would need to put your name that this is your research. However, if these numbers were obtained from a certain research, from a certain article, then you do require to put, a reference. So this is very, very important for tables or for graphs. Okay. Okay, so we're going through here again. So again, this is more examples has been provided for you. Okay, so now here, what we're actually doing, this is at the end, we're actually putting a reference, so giving you a title, information there for you, where to put the information in place. So the first thing we start with the author, we start with a date, okay, and then we all go to the title and so on. So this is really important. You need to make sure that this is all followed. Otherwise, again, you'll be losing very, very important information, okay? So again, this is the way it's actually been done and been written. It's very, very good because you can see everything in here, everything. So even if you got information from a website, and you go, look, how do I write a website down? It gives you exactly how you can write a website. Okay, so all that information is all here. So keep that in mind. If you're actually doing an article, okay, how do I write an article? Okay, a journal. So it gives example from different, resources. Okay, so I would highly recommend you to go over it. The way it's written is very simple. You got, as you can see, you got arrows where to go, explains to you where the author is, where the date is, etc. The major issues that I've seen many times is where a student has missed a comma or missed a full stop or missed a brackets. These are the concerns that we actually tend to have, and unfortunately tend to lose, marks on that. Okay. So, any questions so far? Okay. I mean, newspapers. I mean, at the moment, as you know, that a lot of the newspapers that we get at the moment are electronic. Okay. Very rare that we read a paper newspaper these days. But a lot of it's actually electronics, so you can actually put that in there as well. Okay. So many things you can do. You can even put citation from the lecture notes that we're gonna go use. You can put that in there. Okay. So any resource that you get, any information, it must be referenced. Very important, very important. And if you don't do that, it means that whatever you've written, it shows to the lecturer or whoever is marking the assessment that this is your idea. Okay. And then when we do the research, it shows that that information, as you know, technology now is amazing. The technology that we have, we can actually there's a software that outlines every single sentence, and it outlines where that, the information came from. Okay, the resource or that idea came from which info, which resource, it'd be the article or newspaper or a textbook, etc., etc. Okay, so keep that in mind. Alrighty, so this is your referencing. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any concerns? No? All good? Is that all clear?
Yeah, it's
All
clear.
clear.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's great to hear. Alrighty, so what we're gonna do now, I want to start on introducing to you, the final assessment for you. And I highly recommend you to read it, not just once, but 3 times. 3 times. You'll say to me, why? Why do I need to read it 3 times? Because this is your assessment, and as you know, it has a weight of 70%. So I need to make sure, what is it asking for? What is it, the details? So making sure that you read the information, and as you said, you can see here, plagiarism, referencing, making sure you put that in there. Okay. So the other thing that also you need to be aware of is the word count. We take word count very seriously, and there is a plus or minus 10%. Okay, so there's a bit of leniency for you, so keep that in mind. Okay, so as a professional, you need to be really, conduct proper due diligence in that perspective. Okay, otherwise you're going to miss out. Okay, so you need to see what we're asking for and make sure that you follow that. If I have a 10%, okay, well, if I got 1,000 words, that's plus or minus 100 words. Okay, so as you can see here, the first task is 375 plus or minus 10%. Now, part of the assessment, you can see there's certain information, okay, that I need to answer. There's 3 parts. Okay, read it very carefully, make sure you understand it. If something is ambiguous, which means unclear for you, I'm here. I'm more than happy to explain it to you in details. But I would like you, I'm not going to go through the assessment today, because I always leave that as the last session and the last hour of the 4th session. And the reason that I'll do that is because you would have gone through the materials. I would have explained to you the fundamentals, the theories, and you have grasped, understood what's going on. And when I'm going through the question, okay, and if something that is ambiguous, I'll explain it to you, what we are asking for, and you go, yes, I remember. On the 2nd session, we did this. Is this what's referring to? Yes, correct. The 3rd part is this, what we covered on the 3rd session, and so on. So I want to make sure that I cover and have that grasp of what we're expecting from you on our 4th session, and we usually cover that on the last hour of that 4th session. But in the meantime, what I would like you to be aware of, and the key word here, to be aware that what the questions are asking. So when we're going through the materials, go, hold on, yes, that's relating to this question. I'll take a note. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, so the 2nd task, as you can see, it's 500 words. Okay, task number 2. So, and there's 4 parts here, so you need to be aware of that. And task number 3 is 375 words. Task number 4 is 250 words. Okay, and then we've given you a criteria, what is hard distinction, excellent, good, and so on. So I would highly recommend you to have a look and understand how we as an institute will be using and judging this particular assessment. What is the criteria? Okay, So please making sure that you have a look at that. Okay. Excellent. So do you have any questions on this? I mean, you may have certain questions on something ambiguous, but keep that probably to the last session. Okay. But again, please making sure that you go through it, you read it, you understand it. Okay. Again, please, if you do not have that with you and you don't have access, please contact the Institute and they'll be more than delighted to send it to you. Okay, now we're going to go through module number one. Module number one. Okay, this is really important now. So we're going to go through the materials. Okay, we're going to go through the materials. So let me just close that. And let me share my screen. Okay, I am sharing my screen right now. Okay. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. If you cannot see my screen, let me know. And I'm more than happy to adjust it. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, the screen states manage team performance to support strategy. Module number one. So this is a bit of introduction for you, okay? So the first thing is, and I need to bit of interaction between us, please. You know, I love the interaction. I love a bit of brainstormings and having everybody to be involved. It's very important for our session. So the question that I have for you, what is your understanding of human resource management? What is human resource management? Who can help me with this, please? Who would like to volunteer? And if you don't want to volunteer, then I'm going to have to select someone. No one wants to volunteer. Everybody's scared. Don't be scared. We all, we all okay. It's, we all have different opinions. So please let me know. What about Talal? Talal, can I get please your understanding of HR or human resources management?
It's about employee management.
Employee management. Okay. Yes.
Okay, it's nature of supporting employee to ensure a positive workplace, like healthy environment.
Okay.
And in meanwhile, responsible about the benefits for the employee from A to Z.
Okay. Okay. Good. Very good.
Yes. Also, what is the human resource management? Okay, under the human resource, there is recruitment, there is learning development, there is compensation benefits, there is performance management system. So this is, okay, let's say the course for the HR.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. Very good. So would it be fair to say that human resource management is the umbrella that everything comes under HR falls under the human resource management? Would you agree with that? Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Definitely, yes.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. Spot on. Spot on. Thank you very much. And thank you for the people who actually have, spoken. And this is very important. I mean, we want everybody to really volunteer and, have a go. Okay. So now, as you can see, when we're talking about human resource management, it's dealing with the people itself, or the employees of the organization. Okay. This is the human resources. So every single person who works for the company itself comes under that. Okay. So in relation to, from hiring, the hiring procedures, from how to hire, the resources to hire, the budgeting for the hiring, the budgeting for the HR as a department itself, the performances of the human, of the HR, of the employees, any bonuses, their rights, visas, all these things come under the HR. Okay, so this is very, very important. Now, very important when we're talking about also HR management, you know, we need to making sure what is the valuation that we gonna to evaluate these employees. What are the policies and procedures that the human resources follows that makes everybody equal? You know, we don't want to be biased and having certain favors or certain advantages for certain department or certain individuals over other. Okay, so human resources needs to be equal all the way through. Doesn't matter even if you are the son of the company itself, everybody gets, you know, treated equally in that perspective, unless you have given under the contract a certain privilege. And that's where also human resources comes alive, because under the contract, as an employee, I have been given certain privilege such as bonuses, such as accommodation, car, travel allowances using the airplanes, and so on and so on and so on. So I might have certain privilege under my contract that my colleague may not have. Okay, and under the contract it will say this is confidential, you cannot share the information. Okay, that's fine. So that therefore I need, as an employee, I need to comply with that, because that's a contract that I've signed. And also part of the employment contract will say that you need to make decisions for the best interest of the company. What does that mean? That if I'm making a certain decision for the best of interests of me as a CEO or as a manager or as a supervisor for my benefit, but not benefit of the company that I'm working for, that is a breach. And that is, that again comes under the human resources, where you have breached the contract itself, and the human resource management, there will be certain actions that will be taken. So therefore, under policies and procedures, there could be termination, or could be a warning number one, or you might have to face the board of directors. It depending on the company and it depending on their policies and procedures. So it's very, very important for you as an employee to understand and to request from the human resource department, you know, could I get a copy of the policies if you have not given one? There could be a copy there, but you have not asked for it or has not been provided for you. But it is your right as an employee that you have request a copy of the policies or procedures. Okay, very important. Now, in relation to the HR management, it's one of the core things that it's concerned about is getting better results. Now, the whole point of HR is that everybody's functioning as per the contract itself. You have certain duties, you have certain responsibilities, you are doing that, and you need to achieve a certain results. There's a certain KPI, okay, that you may need to be that you may achieve weekly or monthly or yearly, whatever it may be, okay? But that needs to be achieved, okay? So the company itself will say, oh, hold on, you know, as a CEO, this person has not met his KPIs for the last 3 months. Those information gets passed to the HR. The HR will then be taking certain, you know, actions under the contract. You need to perform ABC under the contract itself. You're not performing, okay? The performance is not there. So again, that comes under HR management. Now, keeping in mind that, you know, as also HR management, it wants to making sure that everybody's cooperating together, that I am working with my team colleague. I'm not working against them, I'm working with them. Again, the reason I'm working with them is for the best benefit for the company itself, okay? So they want to making sure what is the collaboration, what is the team effort here, okay? What is the culture of the organization? So a lot of the culture, okay, is also being built by the human resources, okay? You know, part of the policies and procedures in that perspective, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, the last point on this screen says HR management is a process of bringing people and organizations together so the goals of each are met. Now, very, very important, you know, is when I not cooperating with my manager or my colleague that I work with in the same department, that will cause an issue that the goal that we want to achieve for the best interest of the company is not achieved because I'm working against them. So therefore, hold on. That is the case. HR management comes in and goes, hold on, under the contract, you're meant to be cooperating with your colleagues, also with your managers, and we've seen that you're not doing that. We have evidence that you're not doing that. Okay, that comes under HR management. And again, that comes under performances, again, and complying under the contract of HR that you've actually signed. Any questions so far? Now, please have a look on the major activities that you can see for the HR management. Please tell me what you think.
Doctor,
Yes.
what about the HR planning? It's the meaning about employment. What's the meaning that HR planning?
Okay, very good question. Very good question. So when we're talking about HR planning, now I want to make sure that what I'm going to be planning for that year or for that quarter, how many employees should I put in that department? So I've been requested by the finance department, I need to put another 3, or by in the sales department, we need to put another 6 in quarter 2. Okay, so I need to plan now how many staff that I need to have part of my HR to compensate to achieve these goals, because I need to employ, example, 100 employees by quarter number 4, but I only have three HR employees. That's not enough. So I need to plan, okay, when do I need those employees, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so these are very, very important points, part of the planning your resources, planning how you're going to get achieve your goals for the employees that you're going to hire, to achieve your goals, and plan what strategies you're going to take in place to ensure these employees that you have in place who are full-time or part-time or casual employees, the performances. How are you going to monitor that? How are you going to evaluate that? Are you going to do it weekly? Are you going to do it monthly? What strategy are you going to use? Okay, are you going to use and have meetings with their managers, or are you going to use a software that everything's been put in there? These are the things that we need to be, be part of the plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries at all. Now, why do you think, a very important point, employees development? Why do you think employees development is part of the HR?
I think we needed the special skills sometimes
Good.
in position when I'm talking about a manager or the operation, because I work in factory. That's in my mind.
Okay. See, a lot of companies now, they look at obviously employees as an asset. So therefore, what we want now is to show to the company that, hold on, as from HR management, that these assets, okay, are very, very important. And that asset is that we want to enhance. So I have Mr. A and Mrs. B who've been employee for 3 years, but their manager has noted that their skills when it comes to presentation is not so strong. So therefore, I'm going to do some employees development. I'm going to do a certain courses for presentation to strengthen their presentation skills. That's called employees development, because that's required part of the job. Or even some companies even paying for certain education, either being diploma or masters or whatever it may be, because when they have that qualification, it helps the employee to be a better manager and to perform better at the organization. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is very important. What about employees relation? What does that mean? What does that mean? Employees relations.
Sorry, Doctor, what is it? Can you just repeat it? What is the employee relation?
Employees relation, yes.
It is employee engagements, from A to Z. From
Okay.
administration things, from leave, from sick leave, from promotion, from increment,
Spot on.
from resignations, termination, everything is under the ER, we call it.
Spot on. Absolutely.
Also, they include conflict resolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. So anything to do with conflicts as well comes under employees relations. Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leave,
What
sick
else?
leave, promotion, increment, letters, medical insurance.
Okay.
It's under a certificate, let's say HR letter certificate, let's say to the bank, to the embassies, it's under ER.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Policy and the procedures, Doctor.
Yeah. Look, policies and procedures. That will give you guidelines to the employees relation itself. Because a lot of companies sometimes give extra days for holidays or for sick leave. So the normal law will say, okay, 9 days sick leave, but the company in the contract has, under their policy, they've given 20 days. Okay, and I've seen this before. Okay, so this is very important. Yes, good, very good. Okay, excellent. So this is a typical core activities when it comes to HR management. Okay, now partnering with human resources. Okay, so when we're talking about partnering with human resources, you need to be aware of that the human resources is doing a job to ensure that you as an employee are doing the right thing as a full-time or a part-time or a casual employee. Okay, is your day-to-day responsibilities being met as per the contract itself? Okay, is there any issues from your day-to-day responsibilities? It could be even health and safety issues. Say for example, I might go to the HR department and go, look, I'm performing my work, okay, but the work that I'm actually doing, it's not safe. There's certain hazards, or there's certain risks that is in there that is causing a lot of health issues for myself, either smoke or from whatever it may be, as a health and safety perspective. You go back to the HR will take that seriously, and then the certain actions will be taken from there. Okay. The primary reason human resources and line managers should work together is because both parties have vested together to ensure the organization success and KPIs are met. What we mean by that is the managers of each department. You might have the CFO. Okay, he's the chief financial officer in that department, in the financial department. The CFO may have 50 employees. Now, very importantly, the HR needs to liaise with the CFO and ensuring, can we get some updates about these employees? What's your report about Mr. A, Mrs. B, and so on and so on and so on? What's going on? And it's important that each manager from that department to report the people who's actually looking after, and having a certain system to the HR department. And that could be done. Some companies I've seen weekly, some companies I've seen fortnightly, some companies I've seen monthly. Okay, but usually, again, maximum of a month that the chief would report back to the HR department. Okay. Have you seen these guys before? Have you ever seen, is anybody has reported monthly or fortnightly back to the HR department? Usually in the GCC, it's done monthly. Has anybody gone through this? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is anybody here as a manager in a company at all? Okay. If you're not a manager, that's fine. But what's happening here is that a lot of managers will report back to the HR on the people that actually they're managing or they're looking after, okay, in relation to performances, the attitude, etc., etc., etc. Okay, good. Any questions so far? Now, I would like you to consider the following areas, following topics. Oops, okay. Now, why do you think when it comes to under HR management, recruitment and staffing, recruitment and staffing is very important, especially when you're looking for a specific talented individuals. Recruitment and staffing is very important to avoid a high turnover. You see, one of the things that we always judge a company is that what is the turnover of that company? The turnover of that company, and certain, public companies have to, state this. In 2022, there was actually, 135 employees, or some will put actually a percentage. Okay. Now, if the percentage or the number is too high, it shows there's a very high turnover. Why would that be the case? Why are people leaving that company? They're joining and leaving that company. What's the reason? There's something that doesn't seem to be right. If I'm happy with the company, why would I want to leave? I'm happy with the company, I want to stay. So these are very, very important points. New employee orientation. Now, when an employee comes in, I want to make sure they feel comfortable. They feel part of the family. I got to show them, everything about this company. I got to take them through each department, the exit zones, the safety issues with certain areas. These are things that I need to be aware of. Is that being done? This is part of the HR. Performance is crucial. I want to make sure, is this employee in that department is performing as per the contract? Is he or she meeting compliance? Training and development. Is a certain training development has been done for this employee for the past 12 months or 24 months and so on. Conflict resolution, okay? When there's actually is a conflict between employee and the manager or employee and his colleagues, what are the resolutions is actually implemented? What are the policies and what are the steps on that? Employees discipline, which comes under policies. I need to be punctual. I start at 9 o'clock. I finish at 5 o'clock. I have certain amounts of breaks during the day. Am I taking these breaks? Am I going over? Am I starting later or earlier, or am I finishing earlier or later? These all things are very important. pay and rewards? Am I going by the policy of the country? So there's certain payments, that a certain wage that I need to pay a certain employee because of the profession or their qualification and so on. Am I meeting these laws? I'm paying less, or am I going the same or over? These all things are very important part of that, HR management. Anything here that stands out for you? What's probably the most important point that you think that is really important here? Anybody, please, can we have the discussion? I would like to have a discussion, please.
I wish I could have a discussion with you, but my son is like playing videos and the voice is kind of loud, so I'm kind of not able to open my mic for quite long.
No problem. No problem at all. No problem at all. Okay. Look, it's totally understand that you have family members, and I understand that it's after work, and it's usually it's relaxing time, and it's very important that, and I appreciate that your dedication for taking this course. So there's no issue there at all. But what I would like to mention and take some points for the people who can talk, please unmute and give me your advice. We all have, dealt with HR. If you have worked in the HR department, please let me know. Has anybody worked with the HR department? Can I get a raise of hand? You can click on the raise a hand.
I love HR. I've taken full courses for the HR, including the performance management, even the kind of the cloud management for the HR systems. I studied everything with regard to the psychology of human behavior, and this all self-study.
Fantastic, fantastic. Have you worked in HR department previously?
Actually, no, I was running my own business, so I wanted to get to know how to manage people.
Fantastic, fantastic. It's very, I mean, if you're going to be running your own business, definitely, these are very asset courses, and you need to be aware about that. Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
We have Muhammad Badawi. He's an HR expert as well. He raised
Okay.
Yes, doctor. Yes, I'm HR business partner. I raised up my
Okay.
hand, but Sally, she was. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Please, Mohammed, I was going to come to you. Don't worry. I was just finishing with it, but please, Mohammed, continue. Tell me your experience, and give us some feedback, please.
Yes, I'm working as HR business partner in Abu Dhabi in one of private company.
Okay.
I have more than 10 years of experience in HR in three different
Fantastic.
countries: UAE,
Fantastic.
Abu Dhabi for 3 years, and before that Oman for 4 years, and
Fantastic.
before that also 5 years in Qatar.
Okay, fantastic. So
And
the
yes,
question,
yes,
yes, please.
yes, yes, please.
Okay, that's fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that, Mohammed.
Yeah.
What would be probably the biggest challenge that you have faced in HR?
The most challenging division, let's say,
Yes,
the recruitment and hiring.
recruitment and hiring. Okay, okay. And is that because
sorry, you need to doctor to look for, let's say, talent acquisition or talent people,
yes,
not
correct.
just only to fill the vacancy, and so later on the employee will resign and you have to hire a new one. So you have to look for these areas,
Sure,
and focus to invest, how to invest in the employees,
Absolutely, absolutely.
So is okay. Also, it will make the long term serving with the organization, meanwhile to create a very healthy environment with the employees.
Sure, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so this is we call it investment in the people, or invest on the enhance in the people. Yes.
Yes. Very good. I've been here, as you know, in Dubai for 5 years or so now. Going on my 6th year. One of the biggest challenges that I actually seen in HR is building the culture, building certain culture. It was been sometimes very difficult for HR department to change a certain culture, which is an existing culture, or to build a certain culture for a new company. Have you noticed that?
Yes, we are talking about globalization and the impact of like expansion on multinational corporations.
And I'm talking about company culture, on how people treat each other, how employees should be following a certain protocols or certain policies, having a certain culture where people should actually be helping each other rather than actually getting each other in trouble, so that way they can excel and and get and they can take their positions and so on. So I've seen companies, unfortunately, have that poisonous culture where I want to get him in trouble so he can leave. I can take his position. I want to making sure that I stand out. These are sort of some of the cultures that the HR always try to eliminate, and it's and also a lot of the cultures that we've seen, you have a leader always putting his or her opinion that this is what we're going to do, without liaising with any of their colleagues or having a brainstorming session or getting the advice or recommendation. So these are the culture that has been adapted for years. I'm used to a certain way in my past, company, and I'm going to implement the same way in this company. Okay. This is the culture that I'm talking about.
Okay.
I think this challenge can be met by the onboarding process, clarifying what is ethical and the kind of the code of conduct, what is acceptable and what's not. So standardizing the ethical behavior of the employees and making things clear. I think this would help in meeting that challenge.
Absolutely. Spot on. What about anybody else? Anybody else? What are the other challenges? The other challenges that we've actually had from HR department is meeting a certain budget. See, a budget might be done by or given by the CEO or be given by the board of directors, and they'll say, okay, we want to hire 100 employees, and this is the budget. Now, as Mohammed has mentioned, some of these employees are very, talented individuals, and specific. And when you trying to find these specific people, the pricing, and the conditions, goes higher. So some of the challenges that the HR tend to find is that we found the right person, we found the right talent, it ticks all the boxes, but the budget is not there. You have given us the budget of, example, 50K, but he's actually requesting 100K. So this is some of the challenges that we actually have seen in the GCC region.
Yeah, we have
Mohammed?
sometimes found caliber people or caliber candidates with very good experience with everything, as we said, everything is 100%, not 100%, 90%, let's say, because nobody is perfect
Yeah.
at the end of the day. But okay, as
Of
you said,
course,
okay,
of
the
course.
most challenging thing is okay, the budgeting for this, the vacancy or the structure, the salary structure for the organization sometimes play good, also main role also boss, for these things, you know.
Yes.
Yes, so you cannot exceed or let's say break down the salary structure, okay, in order to hire this gentleman or this lady. So this is okay, yes, one of the challenges also. Okay, okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what else? So we've spoken about the culture. We've spoken about, meeting the budget. What else? What else could be some of the challenges you think?
Employees retention.
Yes.
Good employees aims to move from one company to another, maybe after 2 years or something. So they have higher expectations when they get more experience. So it's kind of a challenge to keep those talented employees within the company.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, that's true. Because what happened is that when people, we've noticed that part of the contract, and especially as HR, if I'm resigning, I need to give a certain amount of timing. Okay, I need to give a certain amount of timing. So if that timing is not provided, there should be certain consequences. I need to train the person who's going to take over. I need to make sure there's a smooth transition. And unfortunately, that's a lot of the cases doesn't happen. That doesn't happen at all. So this is very, very important. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so what I would like you to do, we're going to have a quick break now. What I would like you to do to think on your personal challenge that you had with HR. What was actually the things that you have faced with HR? Okay, and we're going to discuss this after the break. Okay, so we'll come back in 20 minutes and then we'll continue on. Okay,
Okay, Doctor, okay.
thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks, bye.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello there.
Yes, Doctor. Hello.
No, okay. Okay, so I hope you had a good break. So we'll continue on. We'll continue on. Okay. You can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so now we have 4 major roles of HR. Okay, we've got the strategic partner, change agent, employee champion, administration expert. Okay, these all 4 different roles, and usually when you have a HR, you have a subdivisions that looks after each section. Okay, because each section requires a lot of, you know, details, and it has its own strategy, it has its own budget, it has its own paperwork, etc., etc. Okay, so Mohammed, are you still there?
Yes, Doctor. Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, great. So when we're talking in relation to administration expert, you know, there's a lot of paperwork when it comes to HR, and I try to, whenever I'm dealing with HR, is change the system and have everything digital, obviously to avoid folders taking space, having those papers to be lost, having coffee on the papers, etc., etc., etc. Now, administration is crucial because why? We can monitor what's happening, we can follow up, we can evaluate, we can have certain people to be aware of that information, etc., etc. How do you find your role in HR when it comes to administration work?
Yes, Doctor. Okay, as we said, okay, we are using now HR systems. So each and every document, okay, it will be scanned and uploaded, okay, as a PDF attachment, okay, in the systems. You know,
Yes.
before,
yes.
yes, we have using, let's say, personal files for each and employees for the, okay, let's say, the onboarding document like CV, passport, visa, education background, etc., etc. So now
Yes,
we have,
yes.
okay, our own system, ERP system, and we can scan, okay, these documents, and we put it in employee files as electronic, let's say, files, you know. And
Okay.
the system allow us, okay, also to track, okay, the validity for the documents, like, for example, the passport expiry date, the labor card, the MO contract, so and so. So the system give us, okay, also notification. For example, one of the document, it's like already expired or almost want to expire. So that time we can request, okay, the employee to provide us, okay, the new one. So this is, okay, for our, you know, our organization, what we are using now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the best thing when you have a system, and believe it or not, Muhammad, unfortunately, still companies that don't have a system, they still work on, pen and a paper format. When you have a system in place, and when you, gives you alerts. What do I mean by that? If my, passport expiry date is coming, it gives me alert. When my ID card is actually expiring, it's giving me alerts. My insurance is expiring, it gives me alerts. All these automatically, I don't have to look. The system automatically gives me these alerts and information, and it can also, by that it can, it depending on what system that you use, via email, via messages, etc. And not just one person, because what we've noticed is that when you're dealing with only one person, if that person is on holidays, if that person is sick, God forbid, is in hospital, etc., etc., these going on to that person, but that person is not available. Okay, so what happens? It's one person is not enough, so it goes to a group of people that goes to the head of HR, the second in charge, the third in charge, goes to the CEO, and these are things that may actually, if that person is not available, it promotes, okay, that we need to do this. This is the person who will be delegated to do that task, and so on and so on. Okay, so these are the systems that you need to have a proper system in place. Systems now, the technology that we actually use at the moment is phenomenal when it comes to HR, and we need to be aware of these, systems and technologies and to be implemented. Okay, good. Now, let's go through and just to go to the next slide here. Please have a look at this. You see, the old-fashioned way, our HR department used to spend so much time in administration, writing reports and sending the report. They might have to write 3 different reports on the same employee to the CEO, to the head manager. Now, we use systems that reports is automatically done. The HR manager does not even type. Once you have the system has been and you uploaded information, the report gets done automatically based on that information that you've actually injected into that software. So the time consuming for the administration is being cut enormously by using technology. Okay, and this pie graph on the left-hand side shows 50%. On the right-hand side, it shows 10%. Okay, why? Because a lot of it's actually operational now. As long as the operational, the system is working and people are putting the information on the system, that's it, it's done. Okay, very simple, very simple. Okay, so as long as if everybody is on the same page, everybody's been trained on that system, on the operation system, then everything else will be okay. All right, that's the key. Now have a look at this. This is the trends of the human resources. Which trends really stands out to you from a HR perspective? And that may vary from company to company, but there's definitely a couple there that stand out for our organization so strongly.
Doctor, I think today is the words that change. We're talking about global, and you need it, especially managers. We don't talk about local companies. We're talking about global. It's not easy when you choose anybody to work in this company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially if you have an international company and you've got branches in, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, UK, you may have German, Australia, and so on. You may have different, branches, and having a global, certain standards that the whole organization follows is crucial when it comes to that. Absolutely. But if you only got a company that just basically in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi or in Riyadh, for example, now what's happening, you'll see that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, either being finance or investments or real estate, you'll see that there's more and more and more jobs are coming up for the high tech. We're looking always for high tech individuals who do coding, who are equipped with AI, who are able to do high digital marketing, all these, high tech stuff, that are able to support the company when it comes to technology is huge. I've seen so many companies, and HR, getting more and more with that. And the other one that is actually quite important as a role now, especially after COVID-19, is when it comes to virtual employees. Now, companies at the moment, I've seen so many companies, countless companies that actually after COVID, that the employees, okay, are so used to also working, virtually, remotely.
Yeah,
So,
remotely. Yeah,
and part of the HR policies, they actually have given in a month, an employee can take 3 days. This is an example of a company I'm giving. 3 days they can work virtually. So I added from Monday to Friday, because in Dubai we work from Monday to Friday now since beginning of this year. I can take 3 days of that month. I can work from the beach. Okay, no one can say anything as long as I finish my task. That's fine. Yeah, this is so virtual. Working remotely becoming the norm now. Okay, So what else do you think there's actually a change? Has anybody experienced any changes at all, part of the HR, besides working, remotely or diverse? I think, diverse, I think in a lot of GCC countries, doesn't matter where you are, there's always been that diverse. I've never worked in one company in a GCC where I have not had at least a minimum of 10 different nationalities. A minimum of 10 different nationalities.
Yes, because it's people culture, boss.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, it's multinationality in the same organization.
Yes. So the diversity has always been there, but it's actually having that, also making sure they're all working together. That's also is very important. Yes. So but there's a couple of things that I definitely have pointed out on and seen from my perspective. But definitely the high tech is really important. Involving in virtual, having employees as virtual employees is also quite increasing. Increasing diversity and cultural issues. Again, that's it's always been there, but maybe cultural issues to avoid any, especially in UAE, any cultural issues. They're very strong to eliminate that. When it comes to work, doesn't matter where you're from, we all
Yes.
work together as a team and to ensure that the task is completed. Doesn't matter if you are from Bangladesh or India or Pakistan or Europe or etc. We all work as a team. So and as I said to you, I've worked in many organizations where we sat and there would have been at least 10 different nationalities. Okay. Now, one of the things that I've seen as a major challenge, when you have certain talent that you're looking for, okay, as a HR, it becomes very difficult, and sometimes you might have to look internationally from overseas, either from different countries or Europe or etc., to look for these individuals with specific talent. And the challenge is actually, can you convince them to leave the country and come over, to convince them of the conditions that you're going to offer? That's usually is a major challenge itself.
Yeah. Major challenge is to attract them also.
Yeah. I had actually experienced, Mohammed. I'm not going to mention names for to avoid any privacy issues, but
yeah.
There was an individual very high talented in Abu Dhabi, Emirati, and two companies were fighting for him, and they're both offering higher deals for him to join that company. And I was speaking to this individual because it's such a difficult situation when you have two companies, very well known companies, fighting for you, and one is offering this and one is offering that, and then they come a counter offer, etc. And it's just, which decision do you take when that happens? And it becomes very stressful for that person, to make a decision. Is this the right decision for me to leave my current company, the company that I worked for, that I've built, and raised it, and it's achieving its goals now, leave it and go for another company? How would they treat me, etc., etc. So these are still becomes, very, very sensitive topics, but it's a major issue and a major challenge for the HR, for sure. And again, it comes back to budgeting. It comes back, who can actually respond a lot quicker. And a lot of the issues that we've noticed with HR when they miss opportunities is because they've been delayed in making a response. So say, for example, you have offered 100K for one talent acquisition, and he responded back and said, look, I already got an offer for 120. I'm more than happy, if I come to your company, but these are the conditions that I would like to be met. You have not responded to that person for 30 days. So immediately he thought that you're not interested, and he accepted the other offer. So when you respond back after 30 days, look, we've gone to the board of directors. They have accepted your terms and conditions. We're more than happy for you to come on. And the response, I'm sorry, I already accepted another offer. Why? Because their response time was much quicker, more efficient. So this is something that I have noticed and I've seen in the GCC region. So be careful with that. Has anybody experienced that at all? Late responses? No? Okay. So these are the things that I just wanted to focus on the talent acquisition. But please have a look at this. This is a beautiful circle. What do you think? What stands out here for you? Can you see what stands out here for you? Retaining. You can attract, you can go through the selection process, engage them and so on, but retaining that talent acquisition is very difficult. Very difficult. You can, for you to have these assets and maintain them in that organization year after year, year after year, that is a challenge. That is a challenge. Have you experienced that, Mohammed?
Yeah, this is what I said. Okay, the most let's say challenging things is retaining employees. Yeah, because not only hiring to replacement somebody or replacement the vacancies, or retaining the employees is the most challenging things. How to invest in the employee, how to create a healthy environment for them, how to provide them good benefits. All these things. You will have to work with the employee in order to build, one step to the next step, until you reach your goals. So the retaining, is very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So keep that in mind as just keeping these points when you're also doing the assessment, please. Keep those.
Yeah, because you will the ability of the company also to prevent the employee from the turnover, because the turnover sometimes for let's say for local organization is very high, the out more than the in. So the outs meaning that people who resign or leave the company more than the in people. So you have to look for let's say what is the reasons, and most of the employees or let's say or the HR people now they're doing the HR exit interview form to understand what is the reasons, what is the related reasons. Nature of work, it's line manager attitude, it is benefits, it's salary, it's a promotion, it's key persons inside, outside, different reasons,
Spot on.
This is very good, to know what is the turnover indicators.
Absolutely. And this is where you can see on my screen, this is where the matrix, where the HR matrix comes in place. Each section or each criteria that you've mentioned, salary, their performances, their sick leave, their holidays, each has a matrix. Okay, what does the person, how many sick days has he taken in that quarter? How many days of holidays? How many days?
Grooming, attendance, yes.
How many days he was late? How many days he finished early? How many times he did not meet his KPIs? How many times there was actually a dispute with his colleagues? All these are type of metrics that you actually have. And this is very important where the HR liaises with the managers. These are statistics. This is where you be able to make the report to your superiors to see, does that person deserve a bonus end of the year? Does that person worthwhile keeping in the company? Is this person worth developing and investing into, and so on? These are all crucial factors, gentlemen. And ladies, this is really important. You need to understand that these employees are assets. You want to invest in this asset to give you fruits. But if that asset is not performing, it becomes a what? It becomes a liability. I'm working, I'm here, I'm accumulating a disk, I have a computer that I'm using from the company, I'm using electricity, I'm using Wi-Fi, I'm using the resources, but I'm not performing. So what am I doing? I'm actually a liability. I become a liability because also I get paid. I have a salary, I have insurances, etc., etc. There is every single day, every single hour, it's costing the company. Okay, and we actually go through, and when we talk about expenses on employees, we even go by the hour. We don't go by the day, we go by the hour. This person is costing the company per hour X amount. Okay, when we don't just talk about just salary. As an employee, there's a salary, there's sick leaves, holiday leaves, there's the bonuses, the computer, the resources, the accommodation fees that he's actually been paid for, the laptop, the Wi-Fi that he's using, all the resources. We accumulate every single thing that that person is using. That becomes what he's worth for us as a company. That's what we paying this person for. Okay, so. And based on how many hours he works on a year, that is the costings that that person is costing us as a company. So this is very, very important. Okay, and again, as I've mentioned to you, this is some examples of the metrics that we actually have: absence rates, cost per hire. As I said to you, we do it even on an hourly rate, cost per employee, time to fill, turnover costings, vacancy costings. You know, every time that this person has said, you know what, I'm going to resign, I don't want to work with you anymore, that has costed the company money. He's resigned. It means that we need to put another ad. We have, the HR has to pay ads, has to go through the interviewing process. There's timing involved. Who's going to do interviewing? There's a selection process. All these things. This person, when he comes on, you know, starting with the company, there's certain training that needs provided for that employee. All these things. These are all costs. These are all costs. People don't underestimate these things. Yeah. Okay. Now we go to now a very important point when it comes to dashboards. This is where I love beautiful technology when it works. When technology and having a system in place, and I log into my HR section and I see my dashboard, I have graphs, I have, you know, certain, you know, statistics on that dashboard. Immediately I can see the gap. Immediately I can see that what is the concerns and issues in which department, etc. You know, this is the advantage of the dashboard. I don't have to read 100 pages or 200 pages. First of all, I don't have the time. I have so much on board. So I want something that snappy, quick, and it gives me the information in a summarized format. And that is what the dashboard is. That is where the system and software does for you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is the importance of that. And we live in a timing, you know, it's been amazing because the software has never been better than this before. The HR system has been so advanced, okay, that, you know, it makes our job so much simpler, so much simpler. And the involvement now with AI, the involvement with blockchain, the involvement with, you know, the communication between all the stakeholders, you know, that makes it so much simpler and so much easier. Okay. And I'm going to recommend you a couple of things, softwares for you, you know, on our last day as well, that you can actually also see. So this is example of dashboards here for you. Okay. And again, that will vary from software to software, but that's just an example there for you. Okay. Very easy to see. Very easy to see. You know, I mean, look at for example, you know, the number of employees per year. I can see that we are increasing, but I can see, yeah, even by the numbers, I can put that in a percentage. If you look at the number of employees by salary, you know, I can see how many employees, okay, who got higher salaries, which ones are getting the lower salaries. Very snappy, very easy information. I can adapt and I can see. I don't have to go through pay slips. I don't have to go through reports. I can see immediately from this. Okay, and that's what you need. You need information that can give you the information very quickly, very quickly. And that's what HR dashboards will do for you. Okay, now have a look at this. These are 9 competencies that you need to have in HR. Have a look at that and tell me what you think. What do you think? Which one stands out, please? Which one stands out for you? You know the things that is actually always so important from HR is the communication. When communication is not done properly between all the departments, it becomes a big gap, it becomes a big issue. And you'll see a lot of obstacles, usually because of the lack of communication from the HR. Okay.
Yeah, yes, of course, yes. The most important thing is the communication here. Yeah. If you know how to communicate with people, plus you can solve each and everything. But sorry, if you don't know, that it means that will lead a lot of issues, okay, for you and a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So communication will, okay, yeah.
Absolutely. What about ethical practice? See, I've seen a lot of also HR take preference. They favor a certain person because of the relationship. They favor a certain group because of a certain, nationality. Now that becomes ethical practice. You as a HR, you're like a doctor. You're a practitioner. Now, I cannot, as a doctor, as a medical practitioner, take my profession as a doctor to abuse it. So when you have a HR, you're a practitioner, I cannot abuse that. I cannot take certain people as a favor because of nationality or because I have a certain relationship. That's called ethical, and you're obligated by that. So this is also another one that is huge factor when it comes to HR. Okay, critical valuation. Now, when you evaluate a certain employee, we got to making sure that that data that we get from the managers of certain resources is accurate. Because me as a HR, I'll be making certain judgment based on those statistics. If these statistics is incorrect, then I've done injustice to the individual. Very important. Very important. So these are the things that you need to ensure that, okay, I have an obligation. I got to make sure that that manager sends me those statistics via email, signs it, authenticates it, that he is liable for those statistics. If there's any issue, it comes back to him. Okay, so this is very, very important. Yeah. Yes, please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, doctor, I agree with you 100%. Yes, what you're
Yep.
saying is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were about to say something.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So please have a look at this. This is actually certain statistics that may be surprising to you.
Technology, HR technology.
Okay.
Because yes, as I said, okay, the system, okay, now it's make the life very easy. And now we
Sure.
have also in 2023, most of the systems now they can convert it to the mobile applications.
Absolutely.
Also, you can also have this one is automated,
Absolutely.
So with one
Absolutely.
button from your mobile application, you can request whatever that you want. No need to go to emails or something like, So
Absolutely.
for me, my point of view, maybe somebody have another else, but for me, HR technology is most important also.
Absolutely. 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 Agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
Because sorry, for
Um,
our organization, we have our own system. and we have our own mobile applications
Oh, okay, okay,
for each and everything for the HR,
Okay.
which is from
Okay.
attendance, salary letter, work from home, like annual leave, sick leave, everything is through the mobile application, and
yes,
the line
yes,
manager he will receive notification. This is the most important thing. As you said,
yes,
top up or notification. That's it. The
yes,
request
absolutely,
directed to the line manager directly.
absolutely, absolutely. So one emphasis that I would like to emphasize on this particular diagram is that you can have the best technology, you can have the best employees, but if there's no system in place, there's no strategy in place, there's no policies in place, everything falls. Everything falls. Excuse me. So it's very important for us to making sure that everybody in that organization is fully aware there is a system in place, there's certain policies in place that everybody needs to follow. Okay. Now, once everybody's aware of that system and policies, when you have these technologies and when you have whatever it may be, it will work perfect. Because why? Everybody's using it as it's meant to be used, as it's meant to be used. You see, this is a crucial factor. Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions? So we finished module number 1. We'll go to the second module now. Can you see my screen?
Noted.
Okay, give me a sec. Okay, here we go. Okay, so sorry, just give me a sec. Just seems to be glitching. Okay, so I'll close that one. We're going to go to module number 2. Okay. And we go to there. Okay. Now we've finished module number 1. We're going to module number 2. And again, you should have these materials with you. Yeah. If you don't, please ensure that you ask the institute. Okay. Now, as I've mentioned, as my last discussion from module number 1, strategic management is very, very, very important. Why? Because you have systems in place. If that person, the HR manager, doesn't turn up, something has happened to the HR manager and, could not come for a month, 2 months, 3 months, the whole HR department can still move on as if that person is still there. Why? Because there is a system in place. When there's no system in place, it relies on that person. If that person doesn't turn up, the whole company just collapses. There's no system. Everything is done by that person. So very important is that you need to be aware, and if there's no system, you need to ensure there is a system in place that everybody follows. Okay. Now, have a look at this. What do you think? Whenever we talk about a strategy in place, is that we always start with a plan. A lot of people say, you know what? I know what to do. I just want to execute. Great. You're a professional. But even with the most experienced people, you need to have a plan. A strategy plan, how you're going to execute that particular strategy itself. So you need to have a plan where we are now, where we want to be, and how to get there. What resources, financial resources, human resources, technology resources, etc., etc. Okay. And a lot of people, when you talk about employees, and I've done a number of tests, and I asked employees, what's the vision of the company? What's the vision of the company? And employees go, I don't know. I don't know what's the vision of the company. Well, what's the mission of the company then? No one knows. And they're all focusing on themselves, is that Well, all I know is that I need to achieve X amount of sales. I need to achieve X amount of revenue. I need to achieve this. That's your personal KPI. But what's the big picture? And what I've seen in many companies now in the last 3 years as a trend, they put the vision and the mission at the reception. And the vision and the mission and even values I've seen also, but the main vision and mission is that when even employee, when they enter and start the day, they see this. Oh, I remember that. When they have the monthly meeting, the first thing's been mentioned by the managers or superior, the vision of the company is, the mission of the company is. So they're continuously reminded of the big picture. Why you're working here, why you belong in this organization. You're not just an employee, you're a block of that to ensure that we achieve this. You will be part of that massive achievement of that vision. Okay, so it's very important as an HR to ensure that every employee is aware of the vision of the company, the mission of the company, the values of the company, and now a lot of the CSR values as well. Some of it is calling, for donation, or some is calling for certain volunteering work, or some is actually reducing the carbon emission, especially when coming with COP28 at the moment in Abu Dhabi. It's happening end of November, early December, where, the vision of UAE by 2050 to have a net zero emissions. So all these things that, okay, I have a value that goes with the vision of the UAE, as an example. So these are the things that you need to be aware of. You need to make sure that all your employees are fully aware of that. Okay. And that becomes then, once you know that, you got a long-term strategy that, okay, the part of the plan, we're going to do A, B, C. We're going to do it in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 5, year 6, year 7. And by that time, by year 7, we would have achieved our vision itself. Okay. Now, these are the 4 strategic planning processes. Have a look at that. What do you think? What do you think?
Development.
Yeah,
I'm talking about analysis.
absolutely. But you can
Doctor, we needed a strategy thinking when I'm talking about strategy planning in the same time. Not everybody have just special skills.
true, absolutely. Absolutely. You may have as part of the HR that you may have a certain talent for that specific, area, for sure. And this is something that should be highlighted and outlined by the HR department. But as you can see from this particular diagram, phase number 1 starts, what is the foundation? What is our vision? What is our mission? What is our values? What are the goals? What do we need to do to achieve this? This is actually the foundation. We always start with that. Now, phase number 2, we make analysis. So we make SWOT analysis, we make PESTEL analysis. We find, the advantage and disadvantage of our organization, the weaknesses and strengths. We look at our opportunities that we can see from outside. We can see the threats that could happen also from outside, because usually opportunities and threats is always from outside. Strength and weaknesses is usually internal. Okay. And then from that, we can take these strengths that we have and the opportunities from outside, and we can work those together to utilize as much as we can. Okay. So that's where we need to be aware of these things. If we're not aware of our strengths, we're not aware of our weaknesses, if we're not aware of the opportunities that it's happening in our area, in our country, or global opportunities, or the threats that's coming out from outside, then how can we make certain plans or certain strategy based on what? Based on what? So that's phase number 2, the analysis. Phase number 3 is that you have now a plan, a proper plan based on these analysis, and you are executing that plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Implementation.
Yeah, the implementation, you execute. This is execution stage. Now, always when you execute comparison to the plan that you have, you always try to, compare. My plan is A, now I execute. What's happening on the ground? Is A happening? No, B happening. Okay, that's called evaluating. You're always comparing. Now, if I had A and I got B when I implemented, it means that I need to make some certain changes to ensure that I get A. Okay, I need to make certain amendments to my strategy, or possibly change my whole strategy if that is the case. Okay, so that's where evaluation comes in place. Okay, you need to measure performances, you make corrective actions, and then go implement again, and you monitor, you evaluate, you monitor, and you evaluate. And it's just a cycle again and again and again. Okay, have a look at this. Tell me what you think.
Sorry, doctor, we cannot see your screen.
Oh, you cannot see my screen. Strange. Okay. Can you see now? Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Strange. Okay. Yeah. So what do you think? See, whenever you make a strategy and a plan, it must be approved by the board of directors, the chairman, the CEO, okay, making sure everything complies by the laws, okay, and so on. Then it goes to business unit level strategy. So you got the big plan, and then it gets divided. Now, the plan for the finance department is this. The plan for the marketing department is this. The plan for the sales department is this. And every single department in that organization, some organization may have over 50 different departments. Okay, it's depending. When we're talking, banks and big large institution like financial banks, and so on, they have many different departments. Okay, so each department we need to follow, and it will have its own strategy to be implemented, its own budget to adhere to, a certain KPIs to be met. Okay, so, and then you go to the functional level, what resources is actually required for these different departments, human resources, technology resources, and so on and so on. Okay. Now, very important when it comes to HR is that it plays an important role when it comes to competitive advantage. You said to me, what is, first of all, competitive advantage? A competitive advantage is when a company has something special that its competitors don't have. Example, I have an e-commerce business, okay? And I compete with Amazon as an example, okay? And my competitive advantage that I have in UAE, that I can deliver my products on the same day. Amazon takes 3 days. Wow. That's called competitive advantage. I can give the convenience to my customers who they buy products from my website. They will get the products on the same day. My competitor gets it, they deliver after 3 days. That's an advantage. Another competitive advantage is that the same product that I have in my website is 20% cheaper than my competitors. That's another pricing. That's a competitive advantage. Okay, so you may have different competitive advantage depending on your company. It could be pricing, it could be customer service, it could be delivery times, it could be the product itself, it could be the warranty, higher warranties, whatever it may be. So you have something special that your competitor does not have. If that competitor has it, then it does not become a competitive advantage. Yeah, does that make sense? So your HR department plays a role in that, because when they have the system in place and they ensuring that each department is working as it's meant to be, then there'll be a competitive advantage will actually be met. Okay. Now have a look at this. This is Porter's 3 grand competitive strategies. So one talks about cost. When you talk about competitive, I want to make sure that my product or my services has a competitive advantage when it comes to cost. It's 10%, 20%, 30% cheaper than anybody else. That my product comes from it's different. It's not your standard, phone. Example, iPhone. Why do we, I mean, personally, why I like iPhone in comparison to other phones is because it's different. It provides the service that I like and it's different than other phones. Okay. So there's a differentiation. Okay. And it goes on a focus. Focus on what? Customer. It gives me a full focus on me as a customer itself. It has a high customer service. When I call at midnight, there's someone there can help me. It doesn't matter if I'm overseas or not overseas. There's always that support, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so this is where it comes back to. Now, very important part of HR that it tends to be underestimated, and it doesn't really looked very highly is actually the organization culture. And culture, it comes under the values, what people follow a norm, okay? And that usually gets pushed and implemented by the HR department. That everybody, I mean, for example, if we have a culture, doesn't matter what race you are, where you come from, you still get treated equally, or you have, certain rights and so on, then it becomes a culture. Certain language, certain abuse, bullying. I've seen, again, in the West, bullying is taken very seriously. In the GCC region, I still see a lot of bullying still happening. Okay. It's not taken that seriously, but when it's pushed by the HR department that, bullying is not accepted, when they send memos about bullying, when they put education about bullying, etc., it becomes a culture. Hold on, you know what? Our organization, no matter what, no bullying is actually accepted. Okay, so these are the things that you need to be aware of. Okay, now have a look at this. Out of these 10 items, when it comes to organization culture, from your experience working in the GCC, which one really stands out for you here? Sorry, what was that again? Can you repeat
I'm
that
reading,
again?
sorry, doctor. Sorry, I'm reading.
Okay, okay.
Principal, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
As you can see, it's most of them. It's focusing about the behaviors and change behavior, focusing critical behavior, link behavior. So
Yes,
align
yes.
the efforts with the behaviors.
Sure,
So
sure.
it's behavior. Okay, also it's very important to not let people form a leader. Okay, so it's just behaviors.
Sure. So 2 and 3 is one of the major concerns when you're actually changing the culture of the organization. Changing people, the way they think, because you see, I've been working, I'm just giving an example. I've been working at GCC for the last 15 years, and I've worked for 5 different companies. Okay. And this is how I've done it. This is how I've been treating people. Now, I'm working with this company now, and now you want to change me, to change my mindset and how I think. I am 50 years old. I'm a senior, manager, and you want to change me? It becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult. You know, it's one of the things that HR tend to really struggle, okay, with that. So, you know, and this is where, you know, they need to provide the benefits, the training. It needs to be enforced from top to bottom. These are the things that are crucial. It can be done, it can be achieved, and I've seen it achieved, but it needs to be, you know, there's certain strategies, and one of the things that needs to be supported always is from top to bottom, and ensuring that the HR is regularly working on these individuals who object to such, you know, culture. Okay. What else? Now, number 5, I've seen this again and again and again, that, you know, I don't want to get my manager in trouble. I can't, you know, my manager has, you know, shouted at me, my manager has abused me, you know, but, you know, I don't, I can't, if I report him, I might lose my job. He might treat me differently. Okay. So, you know, this is where having that mindset again. So, you know, that if the manager is not complying by the policies, if the manager or your leader is not complying by the procedures, then doesn't matter who he is, you know, it needs to be reported. And it's your right to report such a person to the HR department and ensure that the HR department to investigate and take certain actions about it. Okay. So, you know, I've seen many times where managers abuse, you know, their workers, you know, and, you know, workers are so scared to report because, you know, he's my manager. He's my manager. Yeah. So, anything that you would like to point out of these 10? Is everybody else is with me? Because I can only feel that Muhammad is only talking here.
Yes. Me and you, Doctor. And there's, I think, Muhammad also. Is
Yes.
There's two
We are there.
Muhammads. You're there here with me, yeah? Okay. So I'm gonna
Yes.
volunteer. Okay, from now on I'm gonna volunteer. Okay, I'm gonna get some people to see if they're still there or they're maybe just you know, maybe they slept. I'm too boring and they just had a bit of a nap. Okay. So I'll just see if they're still there. Okay, let me just confirm a couple of things. Okay. All right. All right. So, okay. Now let me go to our next slide. All righty. Next slide. Okay. Can you see my slides? You should be able to see my slides.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as you can see, you know, with organization structures, you know, it's all a team. If we don't all embrace it, it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, if the top leaders don't believe in it, okay, it doesn't work. So it's very important that the whole organization from top to bottom to be followed, okay? Now, functions, very important here. Now, very important when we're talking about a function that I need to inform every single department if there is a new system from a HR department, that I need to inform each department head, either being the chiefs or VPs or head managers of that system. I cannot just assume that this is a new system and you got to use it. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. You need to have a strategy in place. How are you going to convince and how are you going to ensure that these heads are going to use that system? You need to provide introduction, training, why they should use it, show the carrot in relation to, you know, you now doing, you know, 3 hours approximately per month to write the report. Using the system only takes you 5 minutes, as an example. Okay. So show the incentives in that perspective. Why should these heads use such a system in place? Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, have a look at this. Excuse me. So you may have, and I've seen this again and again, it becomes a bit challenging when you have a number of different offices. Say, for example, I have my headquarter in Abu Dhabi, and I have 3 different offices in Abu Dhabi, and I have 2 offices in Dubai, and I have 2 offices in Sharjah, and I have 1 office in Ras Al Khaimah. Okay. Now, to ensure that every single office in the same country, we're talking about in the same country here, follows the same system, it's a challenge by itself. It's a challenge by itself. Because all these offices have one HR department, you see, one HR. So it's very important for you to understand, how could I get all these different offices in place and making sure that they follow the same policies, the same procedure that I want them to. Okay. Can you see the challenge here? Yeah. So it's very important that the HR inform everybody at the same time and have the major heads of each organization introduction about the new system that's coming up and why it's important to be implemented. Then you have an implementation date. This will be implemented on this date, but before it's been implemented, you have provided support training for these people who's going to use it. And once it's been implemented, etc., you need to see and you need to visit, okay, these offices and making sure they actually are using it and making sure what obstacles, what issues you may have in Abu Dhabi, very little issues, but when you go to, Dubai or Sharjah, they might say, we're having these issues, we're having the system breaking down or this or that. So these are the concerns, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? Now, have a look at this. Look at can you please read an example of the last sentence? Oops. My apologies. Can you see the screen, the example? So what we're actually saying now, part of you as in HR department, there's nothing for you. You may see that the offices that you actually have is getting overcrowded. There's not enough space for human resources in that office. Or you can see there's one department is growing very quickly because of its operation, okay? This is where you would need to recommend and advise management, look, this department, we need to have another division. And we are recommending another division in this area because, it would save electricity or would save this or would save that. What's the incentive? So if there's certain recommendation of certain additional divisions, etc., you as a HR you need to recommend that. Now, a recent recommendation that was actually done with one of the company last year, the company that I was actually involved in did not have an R&D division, the research and development. And part of the organization to grow, it's recommended an R&D division, to research, certain technologies, research on certain, blockchains and so on. And we had to have an R&D. And it started with only 3 employees and it grew to about 25 employees. Okay, and this was a recommendation from the HR. Okay. Okay. Now have a look at this diagram. You can see my diagram, yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So you got the headquarters, you have group A, group B, group C, that could be different offices in different region. And then you have the departments. Now, keeping in mind, in group B or group C, which is also that I've been involved in group B, I had, for example, there's only say there's 4 divisions. In group B, we had 7 divisions. In group C, we had 9 divisions. Okay, so it doesn't, you know, in certain groups, you may have more division depending on the circumstances. Okay, it may even be less depending on the circumstances. Okay, so it doesn't have to be all equal, but it's depending on the circumstances itself. Okay, and it depending on region, you may have in different countries as well. Okay, and different countries, again, you may say, you know what, in Europe, I'm not going to have the operation, you know, or to manufacture in there, but I'm going to still manufacture in UAE, but supply and have the sales team, the marketing team in Europe. I'll have my, you know, the research and development in Europe because I want to see the, you know, what's happening in that region. I will also have another human resource department in Europe, example. So these are things that you need to be aware of. Okay. Again, very important to always have metrics, making sure that you have the statistics in each different region. If each different division, each division in each region should have its own matrix. Okay, and that is a very critical role for the HR department. Now have a look at this.
Matrix.
Yeah. So this here matrix shows who's involved in relation to what product. Okay, so it's, you know, you need to be aware on these things that you may have different products, you may have different services. Who's in charge of what? Who will be questions when something is not meeting, you know, a certain KPIs. That is very important because you as a HR, you need to be able to answer the question, this has not been met. Who is responsible for that? Who's accountable for that? That is very, very important. Okay. Now, please have a read just to the first sentence from this this slide. Very important when we're talking about metrics and we're talking about structures, it depending what type of company it is. You cannot compare a startup company to a company such as Amazon or company like Apple. Okay, so it depending which company that you be dealing with, what are the divisions that have been involved in, and what strategies and systems that you have in place. So for a startup who's only got one office, who may have only say, you know, 5 employees or 3 employees, will be different completely than a company that's been existing for the last, you know, 20 years that has 5,000 employees with, say, you know, 25 different offices. Okay, so the more bigger structure that organization is, okay, such as Amazon or such as Apple or a large organization such as Aramco, for example, the structure itself is going to be completely different. So you need to cater. I have a system that I used in my previous company, but that company is completely different than the company that you're working with now. The size of it, the different services, the offices is completely different. Okay, so this is very, very important. So you need to make sure from a human resources management, you need to look at the big picture and deal specifically with the company that you are dealing with. Look at, again, coming back to the basics of the vision and mission, looking at the structure, looking at the policies, looking at different divisions, looking at different offices and so on, okay? Now, key features, please have a look at this. Now, very importantly that I would like to just emphasize, whenever you have HR policies or HR practices in place, that needs to be approved already from the head, either being the board of directors or from the chairman or from the CEO, the head. Once that's been approved, your role as from a HRM is that you need to execute and implement that through every single department. Now, how do you do that? Is through communication, through education, through the importance of using that. So many companies that I went through, when you go, do you know that we have a HR policy? I would say probably about 90% of those employees that I've asked said no, we're not aware of any HR policies. But there was a policy, but it was not made aware. It was not given to the employees. It was not educated to the employees. So this is very important. Okay, have a look at this model, please. Okay, now I'm going to having some volunteers. Mu'taz, are you there?
Yep.
Hello, Mu'taz. Okay, so what really stands out for you, Mu'taz, from this diagram that I just showed to you?
For the whole lesson,
The model, the HRM model.
yep. First, actually, I understood the challenges that. Oh, sorry. I thought we are talking about the whole lessons. What I do understand that here, the strategy that the company or the management they have set at the beginning of the year for any organization. And then it will be distributed to the units.
Correct.
And then the HR, they will start planning it on the system. Honestly, this is what I could read it from here.
Okay, good. Okay, and why do you think that HRIS would be important in that factor? The human resources information system. Why having information system for HR is important for this model to work?
Okay, actually to upload or to set the KPIs in the system to be
good.
easy even for the staff to know their KPIs from beginning of the year.
Good, excellent. Well done, Mu'taz. Well done. Excellent. Ayat, can you hear me, Ayat? Ayat Hamdan?
Yes,
Hello,
I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good. Okay, so what do you think of this model?
Actually, what also I see from this module, the strategies and the policies that the HR should establish and the way they should implement this for the staff. It's by training and give them the proper training how to use these, how to know these policies and strategies. Of course, one of these is component is also to look for the culture of maybe the company or the place.
Spot on.
So
Yes,
it's very important component.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
of course, the employment law, like the employment law here in UAE, should be also implemented for these policies.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's where employment laws is actually just above HRIS, Human Resource
Yes.
Information System. So it's very, very important. You're spot on, absolutely, because that falls under compliance. If these employees' laws are not met, I'm breaking the law, and as a company, there could be consequences, fines, shutdown, etc., etc. Even UAE. Okay, so keep that in mind. Excellent, very good. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Okay. Just keep a note on this particular diagram, please. Just note it because this will become very handy also for you for your assessment. Okay. Now, yes.
I can ask you about HRM. It's using in the large company when I talking about startups or SMEs. You can have amazing HR or the department HR sometimes when I talking about startups, or that's the special for the large or the huge company or sometimes the SMEs companies.
I mean, look, I've seen even SMEs without any HR departments at all. I've seen that the HR role has been looked after either the founder or the CEO or one of the managers, and that person either being he or she, take that role of the HR by looking after the hiring, the HR, budgeting and all that stuff. But as the company grows from being a startup or SME, and has say more than 10 employees, then that's where a HR manager or HR department needs to be put in place, because 10 employees, you got different, the visas expires, they got certain insurances, there's certain KPIs met and so on, in comparison where it used to be just a startup or 2 employees, 3 employees. It can be managed by one person, and by having 10 employees, the company can able to afford a HR because it's obviously making a certain amount of revenue, certain amount of profits, so it can actually implement a HR department. But that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen. I go regularly to DIFC in Dubai, for example, and so many companies are SMEs and startup. They have majority. When I say majority, maybe anything between 80. I mean, this is just again my guesstimation from the people or company that I've spoken to. Between 80 to 90% do not have HR departments. So, but as they grow bigger, then they're to hire definitely HR department. Yes. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So go back here. Please have a look at this table. Part of the plan, when you're making a plan itself for the HR, it's important to determine who's responsible for what, okay, and what action is going to be taken in place. So from this table, what really stands out here for you? Let me just to Ahmed Yunus. Ahmed Yunus, can you hear me?
Yes, doctor.
Hi, how are you, Ahmed?
Fine, good. How are you, doctor?
Very good, very good. So from this particular table, as per the screen, what's really is it highlighted for you? What takes your attention?
I'm trying to find.
Yeah, sure. What is it comparing, do you think? I mean, see, the table itself is comparing two things. It's comparing a standard human resource department in comparison to a keyword here, strategic human resource management. Now, there's two comparison. When you're taking an action from a human resource, we're talking about manpower doing a certain administration. But when you're talking and comparing that to the strategic human resource management, now that is completely different. Why? Because they manage and direct employees' effort to fulfill organization goals, going back to the vision and the mission of the organization. You see? So they direct the employees and go, you are here, remember that purpose. We want to achieve that vision. Then what the vision that you see every day that you come in, we've written it on the reception, on the paper, on the walls. Okay. This is why when you're talking about the behavior of human resources, they're reactive in comparison to strategic human resources, they're proactive. Proactive means they don't have to be told what to be done. They do it automatically. There's certain things that we need to do. This is the best way. They think outside the box. This is where proactive comes from. Okay, so these are the things that are really important, and that's why it's crucial to have a strategic human resource management in place in comparison to a standard human resource, which what we used to have in the older days. Okay,
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Now, if I can have Wasim. Can you hear me, Wasim? Wasim gone. I mentioned Wasim and he disappeared. Okay. Okay. I don't know, the numbers just dropped. Okay. Alrighty. Who else I have not? We had Ahmed Yunus, we had Ayat, we had Mu'taz, we had Talal. Talal, are you here? Did you speak Talal
Me,
before?
Doctor.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, doctor. I asked you about the startup and the SME.
Okay, sure. Okay, so everybody in here had a go. The person that didn't want to speak, they left. They disappeared. Unfortunately, they left me. I scared them away. Okay, so we go to next section, and we got 15 minutes left over. Okay, 15 minutes. So let's talk about the benefits. Okay, what are the benefits? These are some of the benefits of the CHRM. Oopsie daisy. Okay. Now, please, couple of things that I would like to emphasize here. Now, one of the major benefits of the CHRM is to recruit, retain, motivate people. And I want to emphasize on the two words, very easy to recruit. Any HR department, I think, is very capable of recruiting. But what I found as a gap is retain and motivate these employees. Why is that? Why is that? So for HR to ensure there's always a motivation, there always needs to be an incentive. We have initiatives from the HR departments to create incentive programs, okay? Or they're the one that approves certain approvals for incentives that you have met your KPIs and so on. This is important, okay? So this is very, very important when it comes to SHRM, okay? Having these systems for the HR management, okay? Now, what about the last point, to ensure business surplus through competency? Now, this is a very important point. When you have competent people, people that know what their job roles are, they're very good in what they're doing, they're competent in their jobs, it gives an advantage to the company, gives a surplus to the company, okay? So that person becomes a true asset for the organization, okay? And
Like key persons, okay, he will be.
Correct, spot on, yes. And by having also a system in HR is that you understand the strengths and weaknesses of these individuals. You know that that employee A, his weaknesses is, 1, 2, 3. His strength is 4, 5, 6, because you know that, you have analyzed that, okay? And you are working and utilizing the strength, and you have informed the manager of the strength. And when that manager leaves, you as a HR it's obligation to inform the new manager, hold on, you'll be looking after 5 people. These are the 5 people. The person number 1 has the advantage or the strength of ABC. The weaknesses is 2, 3, 4, and so on and so on. It's your obligation, and you need to ensure that gets passed on to the new manager itself. Okay, the outcome. What are the outcome? The main outcome is that you want to achieve a low to almost 0 turnover. That's really the one of the goals of a HRM, really. Okay, you want to make sure that the quality, the production of this team is always high. The customer satisfaction is always high. So if I'm actually producing in operation that these people that have no contact whatsoever with the customer, but the customer is happy with the product. Why? The operation itself is running smoothly as per our HR policies. And when the customer service is dealing directly with the customer is fully satisfied with that customer service, because the customer service department is fully aware of the policies, which comes back to the vision and mission of the organization. The financials, what are the financials? Is the HR needs to be aware of the financials, what the profits needs to be achieved, the revenues is to be achieved, the assets to be achieved. That's very important. The market share, that we need to grow. By 2025, we need to have 5 offices in Abu Dhabi, or 3 offices in Dubai, or starting 6 offices in KSA by 2025, as an example. These are the things that's crucial, okay, that the HR needs to be part of the goals to be achieved. Now, some of the barriers that the HR may not be able to achieve this because of what? In a GCC, we don't have labor union, so we're going to disregard that. But what you may have, and I've seen this many times, and you can see that I've mentioned too many times, is that you have conflict between one department to the other department. I've seen with my own eyes, and I heard with my own ear, that a certain department is not willing to work with another department, as if they're like enemies, as if they're in war and they're working in the same organization. I'm not going to report to this department. I'm not going to give these information to the department. Why? Why? Okay, it's just conflict. So some of the barriers when you have different departments are not cooperating with another department. The finance department is not cooperating with the marketing department, or the finance department is not cooperating with the HR department, and so on. Lack of commitments from the head management. Okay, they're not committed. Okay, that is also huge barriers. Okay, not having proper plans in place. Okay, not enough proper timing has been spent on the plan itself. Not enough resources from money or technologies is actually in place. Okay, incompetent people is actually in place. People are feared of failure, that if they do make mistakes, they're going to be fired. So these are all the things that you need to be aware of. Okay, so these are all things that you need to be concerned, and these are barriers. Okay, so okay, change initiatives. How do you make a change? Now, this is really important. Sometimes when you as a HR and making a change because you know that the policies that you have not proper, or there's certain things that needs to be changed, you need to implement a new technology or whatever it may be, you need to ensure that first of all you make the proper planning. You've done your research and you found that this is the best way to make that change. You get approval from management, implemented in standby management. This is approved, and go ahead. You got the strategy approved. You got your resources that you wanted approved, and then you implement. Okay, you implement, and the way you implement is you make initiative. Okay, by ensuring that everybody is aware of it. Everybody's been communicated why we make that change. You provide the support. Could be training support, coaching support, emotional support. You provide certain documentation. You provide, the readiness for them to change. You ensure that, to analyze when it's been implemented, what are the obstacles they're facing, and how can you make that, easier for them, or how can you actually ensure that you provide extra support. Okay, so these are all things that sometimes actually implemented, part of the change. Okay, and ensuring that change is successful is, again, you monitor, you get feedback. See, a lot of times when you make a change, we're going to do this and that's it, khalas, finished. No, but you have explained awareness, you implement these changes to be put through, but then you also get feedback. Look, this is not working for me because of ABC. These feedbacks are very important. These feedbacks are crucial, and how you can actually then able to amend. And if I got say a feedback that something's not working, how can you then change that? How can you then implement, say, extra support for me, and so on? How are you able to implement for me to buy in that this will work for me? Okay, showing the incentive. So by ensuring that you define that the project, you plan it well, you implement it well, and you sustain it. Okay, that's all part of the process. And each, as you can see, each deals with a very, very important communication skills. Clearly ensure that you define the roles, okay, through communication. Conduct impact and stakeholders assessment. Create the change by awareness. Identify the risks by communicating. Everything to do with communication. When you implement, it's to do with communication. When you monitor and evaluate, it's actually through communication. Okay, and to sustain and ensure that this stays on, again, is through communication. So the main enzymes for this to ensure to work for the change is awareness and communication, feedback, and it becomes a circle. Okay, now have a look at this. Whenever you make a change, I need to be convinced this will be the best way. This is where it comes rational. You in HR define for me that these are the advantage while we're making a change. Okay, the time saving, the efficiency, the accuracy, logical, it's rational. Now, emotional, that if I do this, I can work on the emotion, that you can save a bit of timing working on other things, or you can actually, what we can also do is have a day where you can work remotely and work from home, spend some more time with your family and so on. And a process driven, it means that even if you're not available, even if you got sick, or even if you're on holidays, it's a system, it runs by itself. Okay, this is very, very important when it comes to that. Now, these are some of the strategy that has actually been recommended by Dr. John Kotter, who has written a book called Leading Change. Okay, and he explains his 8 steps. Okay, so 8 process. What do you think of these 8 process? Sometimes people need to understand how urgent we need to make a change. If we don't make a change today, we're going to lose the boat. People, other companies are going to take over. Okay. So this is something where urgency comes from. For us to achieve the vision itself is that we need to make a change. What we have at the moment and what we're doing at the moment is not going to lead us to achieve our vision itself. Okay. Making sure that you communicate the vision and everybody understand the vision. Even the cleaner who's cleaning should understand the vision. You should not be using sophisticated words. You need to make sure they have short-term wins, a win-win. The company will be winning and the employee will be winning. If we achieve a certain KPIs, there'll be certain bonuses, there'll be certain incentives we build in. Okay. And again, by having that, you will build actually a proper culture for the organization itself. Okay, have a look at this. Now, a lot of people in HR not fully aware when a company is about to merge with another company, or when a company purchases another company, they don't understand that they're also involved in that process. That, you know, that when we get another company who's joined us, we need to teach them that we have a system in place. We have certain policies in place. We have a certain culture in place. And they need to be aware of. And it's not just a hit, but it's a gradual thing. Okay. So from preparation, performance, making sure due diligence on the individuals, maybe certain people's might be changed, certain people's that may be replaced. Okay. Make sure that we have a plan integration in place. Make sure that, you know, implementation is done properly and measured. And again, the same system that we have in our existing company to be implemented in our new company, and making sure that we monitor these people, making sure they come and join us and see how our system is actually operating in our company. These are things all very, very important, very important. Now, as HR grows, you know, the whole company also grows. Why? Because from a HR department having 3 employees to having 300 employees is because of the supply and demand. When your company grows because people are purchasing more of your product or your services or both, means that your employees will grow. It means your HR department grows. But that's only because of the supply and demand. If there's less demand, then less supply. If there's more demand from your customers, then there's more supply, there's more employees, more HR. Okay? That's how it works. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, have a look at this, please. These are some of the management tools, okay, that I highly recommend for any HR department. When we're talking about a digital dashboard, which we spoke about through the software, but what about scorecard? Scorecard can also be done through the software itself, and the scorecard is important for each employee because it assesses the performance of that employee. We can see from the scorecard what is the performances day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. Okay, and strategy map is very important because is that we have a strict strategy. Doesn't matter who is in and who is out. Okay, that everybody follows that strategy. It's unchanged. There's a certain steps. There's certain things that we need to do. Step 1, 2, 3 that needs to be followed. Okay. Any questions on this? Any questions?
No, it's clear, Doctor.
No, it's
Okay.
clear, Doctor.
Excellent, excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I know it's 10 o'clock UAE time now, and this is shows of dedication, okay, and how much that you want to learn, how much that you want to invest in yourself for your inner growth, and this is very, very important. So congrats to every single person who still stayed, and I hope enjoyed it. And we have finished module 1 and 2, and next session, which is the following week, we're going to do another at least 2 as well. Okay, you take care. Please make sure that you read the information that I've recommended you to read, and I look forward to seeing you in our next session, and have a great night.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Good
thank
night.
you, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My
Have a
pleasure.
great
Take
day.
care.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good night. Take care. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.